Hello, welcome to episode 18 of the Realtors. I'm David Blair. He's Trevin Perez. How you doing, Trevin?
Hey, doing fantastic. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a holiday week. Holidays are fast approaching. We've been kind of talking about what's been going on with that. We've got a guest today. Do you wanna introduce our guest for us today?
Yeah, I'd love to. Here at the Realtors podcast today, we have Amber LeBlanc, and she is a director of sales for Citarelli Realty here in the Orlando, Central Florida area. Amber and I go way back to my start back in 2017, and she's just a wealth of knowledge in real estate. She is also a trained coach. She's also completing some psychology studies in school. So she is also like a therapist. So, David, I think today we're going to get a lot of emotion,
Yeah.
addressed and how we are challenged in this real estate market and, I'm happy to have her here to provide insight for our clients and for our guests and especially other realtors. So, welcome to the podcast, Amber.
Yeah. Welcome. Awesome. So, yeah, I'd be interested to hear maybe a little bit later on what Trevin was actually, which you worked with him in. Was it a coaching capacity or was it more of the therapy, session? Because I do need someone to take that over. I've kind of filled in that role for him as of late. I welcome. It takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise another realtor. So let's jump into it. Let's hear about a little bit about what you do with Citarelli Realty. Go ahead.
My title is the director of sales, but I hold the agents accountable to their daily activities and lead generation and whatever that looks like in the current market. I do go out in the field on my broker's behalf, but my main focus is getting the brokerage and the agents to produce more year over year.
Okay. And is it primarily, now this is with agents, I'm assuming, of all experience levels. This could be entry level just coming into the business, or it could be people like myself and Trevin that have been doing this for a while and kind of keeping on track and keeping updated with new trends.
With Citarelli, we do have a desired agent avatar, that we found fits best with our brokerage model. But we have gone through the growing pains of figuring that out, right? With hiring the right, finding the right agents to put in the right seats in our brokerage, or helping them to find the right place for them to be if it's not with us. So, primarily, we like to focus on agents 2 million or more. We're not teaching the basics of contracts and such. We're just teaching how to do better, make more money, serve the customer better, be a better professional.
Okay. You said 2 million or more?
Yeah, I mean, that's the desired agent experience with the way we hit the ground running in our training
Mhm.
system.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, because we're a boutique brokerage, we're looking for agents to be able to, even on the team, be pretty responsible and solution oriented in failing forward to find success. We're here, but we don't want to teach how to open up a lockbox at this, in this industry. That's something that's a
Sure.
basic, right? That's basic training.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the current market, I mean, what's it take to sell 2 million? Four houses, Trevin? Anybody can sell four houses in a year, can't you?
That's true.
It's very true.
So yeah, so some of so what's your take, Trevin, in regards to the process as far as approaching coaching? I know you probably have a little more experience with that side of it than I do. I did it a few years ago, and I say a few, it's been a number of years ago, and I did find it helpful. Trevin and I have discussed the fact that we both worked for OfferPad, and while it was a little bit different business model, there was a very, when you say high accountability rate, on a daily basis, almost to the point of several times throughout the day. We would actually have contact with a director to kind of keep you on task. But I will say this, I had some of my best years in real estate the last 3 years with that company because of that accountability. Trevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that having the day-to-day contact with that director was extremely painful, but yeah, the
Yeah.
volume of business was just ridiculous. I wish that a lot of those sales would show up on the MLS, but they were all under the broker's name. So they were all like off-market sales, but yeah, it was ridiculous. There were times where David and I would touch base and I'm like, what are you clearing this year? He'll give his number, I'm giving my number, and we're sharing with other guys on the team, and everybody was just hitting it out the park real strong. I would say that that's a different kind of coaching than what Amber does. Amber's more supportive, collaborative, and it's the kind of enrichment that supports your growth and evolution. Whereas that environment was just cracking the whip, right? You're not dialing enough. Like, get to it. How many appointments have you scored today? And that's how I met Amber. She was the director of coaching at a different brokerage, and that's how we kind of started down this road in conversation. And I eventually moved into a team environment where it was led by an individual who she coached originally during her days at Keller Williams, right?
Hmm.
So, for all the years I've known Amber, she's always been in a coaching capacity. And so I'm excited to hear how she frames out and breaks out the facets and layers of what coaching embodies and how it can help agents in this current marketplace.
Yeah. So what are your I guess so what's the beginning, the beginning of that, Amber? What's that look like as far as an agent that comes to you or someone that's with your company and they say, okay, we want to go into some of the programs that you offer. What does that look like? Kind of like, like an ABC, the steps to that. What does that look like for you?
So the first, in all honesty, looking at the statistics of how agents succeed, how little agents succeed in the industry, I always go back to the whole person, whole business aspect, right? And so you've got to get down to what you're willing to do as an individual on a daily basis. In real estate, even if you've been in the real estate industry for a couple of years, there's a mentality of checking into work. Somebody's going to hold me accountable. Some people function in the I'm only going to do what they're asking me about, right? And so getting in front of that and presenting a person with themselves in order to grow professionally and to succeed financially is the basis of all coaching, no matter what level they're at. And it reiterates itself time and time again. You can grow in the little things and the consistency at the beginning and then come to that ceiling and you're not producing more, or the industry has shifted and you need to shift how you function in order to produce more. So that consistent growth mindset within yourself, right? So a lot of people come into the industry and they're focused on, I want to make 100,000, I want to make 200,000, I want to be in the top 12%, but not once are they dealing with themselves on an alarm clock. So it comes down to the little basic things in your daily life in order to get to being that success. And so when agents sit down with me and we have an appointment, the first thing I do is I go through the assessments of their personality. I go through assessments of how resilient are they, right? Because when there's a contract that's falling apart, are their emotions going to get in the way? And are they going to be able to think clearly and neutrally for the parties on both sides of the contract, right? If they're in their own way and they can't get over themselves emotionally, how are they going to advise somebody they have a fiduciary responsibility with? And in our industry now, with the changes, buyer's agents need to function like listing agents. You need to know your contracts. You need to have difficult conversations that make you uncomfortable emotionally. You need to ask for the money you feel shy asking for, you know? So that's the foundation of all coaching. And then we chunk it down into where they are individually. Then we chunk it down to your personality is good in front of people. Your personality is better behind phones because you get locked up in front of people. We'll start there. We start down with basic tonalities if we need to. People who are super successful sometimes run over everybody else, and they're leaving 60% of business on the table because they're just going for that like this. Then that the people who don't want to ask, you got to get them to close, and so it's the whole person, whole business aspect that's going to make you successful in real estate. And this industry, I don't know about other industries, but I've spent all of my career in it and going through psychology degrees to assist with it. And it always comes down to you as the individual and how much you're willing to grow consistently, time on task.
Interesting. I think, Trevin, I think she just described us actually in that last 2 minutes. Because if that's not you and I don't know who is. Because I'm what do they call it? Ready, fire, aim. I do that all the time. And Trevin will just analyze things to the point to where I'm just I'm falling over. I'm like, let's just sell something. Let's just get out here and
Yeah.
sell something. So, I think a combination of both. If you could put us together to be one super agent, that's what we would be. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
but no,
no,
it's
I agree.
interesting. Yeah, everybody works differently to their own level. That's interesting because a lot of times what I hear every year, especially this time of year, and that's kind of why we're doing this segment now, is this time of year every agent I think is looking to business plan for the upcoming year, so to speak, and what
Yeah.
they're going to, what their goals are for the next year. Trevor and I have talked about that quite a bit. As an agent, I think you have to be extremely focused, and it's hard because there's holidays, they're right in the middle of the holiday season, and you don't want to go on that appointment. You don't want to make those extra phone calls, but you pay for it in productivity in January and February for what you don't do now. And we know that. So it's just a matter of just kind of staying on task. But a lot of what I've seen, and I like what I'm hearing from you in regards to you get a little more involved, it sounds like, than the actual numbers, because a lot of what I see with business plans that they spell out for you, it's all number based. It's basically, I want to make X amount of dollars, for the year. And so to make, 150, 200,000, I have to go on this many appointments, I have to do this many calls, and I have to do that. And it's broken down strictly into that simple math of that if you make enough calls, if you go enough appointments, you'll have success. And I would actually disagree. I'd like to get Trevin's take on that. I would actually disagree with that. I do think it is a numbers thing sometimes, but if you don't know what you're doing and you're doing things wrong, just because you're doing it wrong consistently, that doesn't mean that eventually it's gonna work out. Trevin, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that just from a cold call perspective, you can make 1,000 phone calls, but if your script is wrong or you just come at it with a bad tonality or energy and you just sound negative and you're droning on because you really don't want to make that call, people feel that energy and you're not listening to the opportunity, right? I was listening to a coach online talk about how people say no. Like, is it no, no, or no? Well, that's an open, right? Let's dig in. Let's like kind of see where, well, are you open in 6 months from now? Or can we have a conversation about the value is of your home? Can I follow up with you, right? Can I get your email, right? There's opportunities to wiggle in and follow up. And if we're not like self-assessing constantly, then that consistent calling of poor scripting is going to show, and then we're going to give up. So I kind of think that's where someone like Amber comes in really great, right? Because it's that constant jolt, or even like in the environment we were in, that sweatshop environment of Awful Pad. I mean, it was like daily, right? Daily. What are you doing? What are you doing? And because of that, we went after those leads we thought were not leads and they turned into leads, just because of the constant pressure and attention. I think we got a million things going on in our head all the time. So, how do you stay focused? I mean, Amber, how do you stay focused?
um I'm old school, so, and I honestly, God love my broker. She's been telling me to write things down since I started with her. And this last year, I implemented that simple practice. So when I start the day, I write the time I start, I write what I'm doing, and anything that pops in my head, that I need to carry on that doesn't fit into lead generation right now goes on a sidebar. And then I have times where I have an alarm and I have to circle back to it because I'm somebody who I do 90 million things all at once. We're a virtual brokerage. I work from home. I'm a single mother. I have things on my plate and I will forget. But what I've done in, I guess, the last 6 months with writing this down, I'm getting more done in an hour than what I was doing in a half a day before. So understanding my learning style, understanding how I function, understanding that, for example, and this could go for anybody. You don't budget your checkbook in your head. Why are you budgeting your time during the day in your head, trying to remember the 50 million things you have to do in real estate as a professional, as a listing agent, as the liability with your contracts, as ABCD? So I think that we need to get down to the basics with ourselves in doing that little task. Write it down. If it's technology, write it down. But finding that place where you know that you're going to function at the highest capacity within the time allowed is how I had to develop myself into that. So I write it down. I'm old school.
Yeah, I do, and I learned a lot of this from my time with OfferPad in that environment, and I just started doing time blocking is the way I find to be most consistent in what I do. Now, when I go off track of that, things get a little haywire. Like you said, you've got too many things going on at one time. You're thinking of one thing, and then you get an email, and then you've got to respond to that, and you've got to put out the fire constantly, daily, that sort of thing. But at the same time, what I have to do a lot of times is realize that is it really that big of a fire right now, or can it wait until I finish this segment of business that I'm working on right now in that time blocking? And a lot of that is important in regards to prospecting on a daily basis within set time periods, working on answering emails within a set time period. Trevin alone answering his emails takes a large segment of my day, so it's just a lot. It's a lot on my plate that I have to deal with. So I have to carve out that sliver of time for Trevin, which is somewhere. It's in there. It's in that range. To make
You,
sure that I give him that attention that he needs, so that we can still flow together.
all right.
There's something in your mind? Looks like you want to jump in. You jumping in?
The macro part of it, and I had to chunk myself down to the micro within that. So
Hmm.
I do what you do, David, with that time blocking on there. But even within, like, I circle back when it says I need to check my email, right? But I also have that time block to catch up that miscellaneous stuff, the little stuff that we put to the side, like,
Right.
add that client listing drips from MLS.
Hmm.
People forget that all the time, and then you lose a client.
Yeah.
There's a little things like that.
So let me get some real life situational coaching here. I'll give you a situation I was in yesterday. I was showing property yesterday, and Trevin and I, for the most part, I think work with a higher number of sellers than we do buyers. Yeah, my percentage over the years has been pretty high on the listing side. It's probably been about 80%. So I do work with. I welcome buyers, but a lot of times I work with them as a result of listings that I have, or customers, repeat business, customers that I've helped in the past. So I'm working with a buyer yesterday and showing her property, and she liked the property. She didn't love it. It checked pretty much all of the boxes of what she was looking for, and actually came in well under budget of where she originally started looking. She was looking around 400,000. This was an opportunity within a neighborhood that she really likes. It's near friends that are close by, for around 290. And it's a property that'll probably sell pretty quickly. It's staged nicely, good condition. The minor things for her were the closet in the bedroom wasn't quite as large. And the neighborhood was really nice. She was a little concerned about it, but I think unnecessarily. So I guess I felt like she wanted me to talk her into buying the house, and I didn't offer that. in that regard. I mean, I just told her, I said, does it check all the boxes? And we kind of went through, some of the steps of what I thought was important to her. But we're still, as of, as of this taping, we're still kind of waiting. She's like, well, let me get back to you. And we had 4 of those calls yesterday where we kind of recapped, this is what the home has, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, well, let me call you back. I'm going to think about it still. So how would you coach me in that regard to get her to write a contract by this afternoon? That's what I need. I need something
So
on her
I
side.
don't think I think you need to put it in
Yeah.
writing for her. She needs to see it.
Yeah.
She's listening to and she's coming back to you to try and get the numbers,
Hmm.
try and get the things, but it sounds like she needs to think and process.
Yeah.
So she's heard you a couple of times. What I would do is put it in writing, maybe even an Excel spreadsheet. Does she seem like a C personality or like a SC personality?
Yeah, she's not real touchy feely. So I don't
Yeah.
think she's certainly not an emotional buyer. I couldn't, it's really hard. I've probably shown her about maybe 10 properties or so. But she doesn't get overly excited. So it's really hard to read, her emotions when she likes something, because I'll ask, I say, what do you think? She's like, I really like it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't tell, because you look the same all the time.
Yeah. Her
So
face, her happy faces or sad faces or mad face.
it's this,
Um,
it's
so what
this.
it is, so it sounds like she's an SC personality. What she's
Hmm.
trying to do is decide on a commitment that's going to be for life.
Hmm.
So it's going to take her a little bit more time. If you did a buyer's consultation or any kind of finding out the 5 must-haves, 5 must-not-haves, I'd outline them for
Hmm.
her. Also, little things like on list reports, seeing what's in the vicinity, so she can know where she can go to enjoy her lifestyle there. She's
Yeah.
buying her neighbors. She can fix a closet. That's not the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's
That's the odd thing about it is,
if she's an SC personality, everything around her, the lifestyle that she's committing to is what she's making a decision on. And
yeah.
that's not going to come quick, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So in order to speed that up, you have to give her the visual, right?
Hmm.
She's heard you twice,
Hmm.
but she can't see it.
Yeah.
So you may need to help her to see it.
Yeah.
So that
Good.
requires you to be compassionate, David.
Action in the form of facts. I don't
Hold
really want
on.
to be touched either. So I probably wouldn't give her a hug.
Be compassionate. I got it. Got it. Wrote it down. It's on the list for today.
David.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna time block for 2 minutes today on working on those items. So yeah, I'm set.
It's the same thing with your agents. You're going to coach her up or coach her out of that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. Trevin, you had anybody lately that you need some coaching lessons on?
I do. I mean, we just had a seller sign yesterday. We're waiting for the official closing on Monday, but this is a repeat customer. I've done a business with several of the family members, and the buy process was a couple of years ago, height of COVID, and decided to sell 2 years later. Market is slower. Pricing is not what she was hoping for. And, I'm sure she's looking at what agents are taking, what closing costs is, and then what she's taking. Now, luckily, she's taking something, but there was strong emotions about resentment toward the process and toward the sale and reluctance to do the deal. That was tough just because the emotion, and it was, the client was quick to snap at me multiple times throughout the process. And I had to understand, I get it. This is not a comfortable situation, but I'm here to state the facts. Here's what it is. Here's what it is. Um, but it was just hard not to react emotionally because I was receiving a lot of that energy. I mean, what do you recommend there?
You're asking me or David?
Oh, you, not David, please. Mr. Empathetic.
So, so just to clarify what's going on, you have a seller, they're reluctant to list and sell it because emotions that are attached to it.
It was, she's not making a great profit. It's a
Okay.
loss for all intents and purposes.
Why is it a loss?
You bought it at the height of the market, and now you're selling 2 years later. Um,
She
the
has to
equity.
sell
I'm sorry.
and she has to sell it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
The situation sucks. That's the reality of it.
yeah.
I'm so sorry that this is the situation. But what we can do is, there's a couple ways you can mitigate it for her. Explaining to her the new laws where you can reduce some of the concessions and put it on the buyer's agent. Now, we all know that it's all one and the same. It came from the buyers at the front end, blah, 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 blah. But the mindset for sellers is they always came off of that. For example, if you do 6%. But if you go to them and say, no, 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 the buyer's agent's going to cover them, I'm doing this for you at 4%. That way I can offer 1%. I'm doing this for you at 3%, right? Then you have those options for sellers now. Whereas before, that wasn't the general, nobody would show their house. But Mrs. Seller, that's a new opportunity for us. So we can approach it differently, present it to the buyer differently. And in the end run, you're saving this amount of money. So it kind of takes the edge off the suckiness just a little bit.
Okay, sounds
There's
good.
always find a solution for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's always a solution. There's enough unless she's going to lose it and foreclose it, there's got to be enough, right? The
but
situation
that's
is
the key.
required.
But that's the key, right? You're taking money on the closing settlement. You're making something,
Yeah,
and you're walking away from a bad situation.
right,
So you have to find the positive in that. But
right.
if they're not, and they're just stinking up the joint all the way to closing.
Yep. I understand how you feel. I'm so glad we were able to get you the money that you're getting. I'm so glad you'll be able to move to this next place in your life. And you hear, you listen, you bring them back to focus, right? They're in states of heightened emotion. It's finances, it's emotion, it's everything. It's money. It's money. They have a right to be emotional about that. But you, as the professional, have a responsibility to keep them anchored in getting them to the closing table so they don't lose more money. And if you sometimes had to take the approach and going, I understand this is rough, but please understand the boundaries within professionalism of working with me. I'm doing everything I can for you. Could you curb your tone with me? Could you? And if you need to snap them into place, snap them into place. It's okay, right? They hired you to negotiate and do what's best for them. They don't tell you the kids don't tell you what's best for them in the household, right? Sometimes you lead without explaining everything, but you guide them within your boundaries. If they want to
Sounds like
flip out, they're just going to flip out. That you can't control that.
true. Sounds like some practice that I should take with David when he's getting seated.
It's tone is everything, Trevin. You need to understand tone. You need to understand to read the room. Sometimes when you read a text message, I read a text message. I'm like, I don't know. That seemed a little aggressive. It seemed a little aggressive. I take that same approach with customers sometimes because I think you can misread what people intend a lot of times. A lot of times, if I do get a text message from a customer that seems a little short or blunt, I'll give them a call real quick and I'll say, hey, I got your text message. I just wanted you to kind of expand on that a little bit for me, and then I can kind of tell, obviously, with their tone because I can hear it now of if there was anything to that or if they're upset or if they're completely fine. In a lot of cases they're fine. They're like, oh no, what I was saying is, blah blah blah. And then it's no big deal. So quick question with that, Amber. So with coaching, how many agents are you interacting with on a daily basis, would you say? Is it a high number or
I mean, our team, we have a team of 5 agents and a
Mhm,
few independent agents.
mhm,
So I work with the agents, the broker, but then also I lead generate.
mhm. Okay. Okay. And is it is it's ongoing? I'm assuming obviously it's kind of like what we're talking about today. That's why I wanted to bring up a few situational, because I assume that's probably what it is, isn't it? For the most part, it's just each individual situation that's coming up as they go along.
Yeah, and then making sure that they're, we have some lead sources that have high performance metrics, like you guys
Hmm.
had, you mentioned before, and so just managing the lead source and make sure the leads are serviced right by the agents, and then if the agents don't get to it, we're working the leads. So it's a good bit with the agents on the daily basis, but it's a combination of things. It's kind of like a soccer team, making sure nobody's off sides, everybody's moving toward the goal.
Yeah. And is it as far as you said, as far as some of the goals, do you do that with them as well? Like what I mentioned before, you have is this time of year you're doing goals for next year, things that they're going to be looking to, you know, whether it's production or certain numbers that they have in mind to get to
Yeah,
within the next year?
I pulled everything that we needed to pull, and created a business plan, basically finding out exactly where their closings came from, the type of closing, the lead source, the price point, the commission. And we chunk it down to their financial goals, and combining with what they've done to see
Mhm.
what they need to do next year, right? So which lead source or activity produced the most amount of closings, right? And so we want them to lean into that kind of thing, or the ones that produce the highest amount of commission. So in the business planning, we're tweaking it based on their goals, based on the lifestyle that they want to live next year. But we do have our minimum standards. We don't have anybody, our minimum standard is 12 a year. If you're not, it's full-time agents. If you're not a full-time agent, it's really difficult to support yourself in this industry, right? In this economic platform right now. So the thing is that we're looking for full-time agents. We're looking for daily activities, and agents are out there with customers. What do I do with this? And then they're calling in to ask questions on that. So with each lead source from what they've produced this year, we're trying to get them to lean into that next year. So we just actually finished all that this week. Actually, yesterday I did all the calls with individual agents to solidify that.
So from an accountability standpoint, is there any tips? So let's say, for example, Trevor and I are with different companies. Is there coaching in place at your company, Trevin? I don't know if we talked about it or not. Or is there active coaching? Yeah.
Yeah, there's active coaching available, but obviously, you have third party coaches like Tom Ferry and others that
Sure.
are pretty big name out there. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Amber does any kind of third party coaching as well.
Yep,
Hmm.
I do. I
You
do
do?
third-party coaching. My broker does third-party coaching.
Hmm.
If it were like a brokerage, we can sometimes partner together on that,
Hmm.
but it's just going to be contingent on what coaching is needed. There's some expertise. I'm not a broker, so there's levels that I wouldn't, coach a broker, where I would flush them over to her. But as far as individual agents, teams, I love working with teams. I love figuring out that avatar for that team to see what's going to cause them to meet all those numbers that we talked about, right? It is the numbers, but you got to get down to the agent that will do it.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good to know that there's some options out there if you don't. I don't think, I mean, as big as our company is, I don't think we have had that in the past. We've had coaching. We've had someone that was in that position. We had a training manager, I guess, which is not really the same thing, because they would really just kind of go over, for example, contract changes that we had, this past year, things like that, and just kind of keeping you up to date on different tools and things like that, but not individual coaching. I think that's kind of been left to the individual agent, which is what Trevin. That's why Trevin wanted to bring you on, because we talk about that, and a lot of time it is up to the individual agent to go out and seek services like yours, to where they can get to the level if they're not there, because it's hard to do solo. I've managed to do that with Trevin's help, but I'm gonna need coaching. I'm gonna need more coaching, I think, within the next year to kind of
I tried,
obtain my goal.
David.
So what else? You got anything else, Trevin?
No, I think this was good. This was a good conversation. Last point I would like to ask, Amber, is, given the state of this market we're in, right? We
Mhm.
just passed a big election. We know a lot of clients are in pause mode to sell or buy because of the election or because of interest rates. We've had some big news in our National Association of Realtors and just how commission is handled. Department of Justice just chimed in this week, right? It's a big whirlwind. I mean, how does what you offer, I mean, if you were doing a pitch on why coaching is necessary in the state of this market here, I mean, what's your big position on it, and how do you view the importance of why people should use coaching?
So I will say this: I believe even coaches need coaches. I have my coaches. I don't think that in all areas of life, professional, physical, emotional, like everybody needs a coach, right? And so, in all honesty, the all of the big things going on in the world happen throughout history, and they're going to continue happening. And I think it's complete distractions for agents because, especially in here in Central Florida, people are buying and selling real estate no matter what's going on in the world. So focusing on those things, yeah, it might buyers may lean in more, sellers may lean out more, but the market's going to constantly change like that. But it goes back to the same thing we've been talking about the whole time. It's the consistency of what you're doing in your business, because there's always going to be 12 to 24 buyers or sellers that you can get in a 365-day period that have nothing. So I think that while those are wonderful things you absolutely have to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to the industry. You have to pay because that's a timing for somebody. But just like filling your pipeline based on when they can buy, you take those into account. If they're going to wait until after the election, well, you're throwing them in your pipeline up here, right? And you're nurturing and nurturing and nurturing, and you're having a conversation with them, and you're finding what political, economical, or industrial things are important to them every time you're maintaining that relationship. It doesn't change it. It just moves it on the timeline of when they're going to close with you. Does that make sense? So all those things are very important, but again, I find that if agents are focusing on that, they're not doing what they need to do to produce.
Very cool.
Good
It's
stuff.
Very
Good
simple. It
cool.
stuff.
might be a little bit different than what other people think, but I think that it's a distraction.
Good
Nice.
stuff.
And so, Amber, how does any of our audience members connect with you or reach out to you?
They can call me. My phone number's been the same. It's 407-494-8334, or they can email amberguestleblanc@gmail.com.
And what's your social media handle? Which one you use most?
I haven't opened it up. It's called the Savvy Business Coach.
Savvy
Nice.
Business Coach.
Nice.
Yeah, I have it. I don't have anything on it, but that is my handle.
Okay, cool. But your alternative is, do you use Instagram as a
It's
source?
Instagram. That's on Instagram at the Savvy Business Coach or at Amber Guest LeBlanc.
Okay. Okay, very good, very good. Well, I appreciate your time. I learned a bunch. I learned a lot about David. So,
Thank y'all so much. This was fun.
So we need that mediator each week to kind of keep us in checks and balances. Amber LeBlanc, Citarelli Realty, appreciate you coming on today. Continue to follow, subscribe, like our content. We appreciate the opportunity to bring this to you. Amber, thanks again, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
bye.